All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar on Clean Energy 101. My name is Samira Hanessian, the Energy Policy Director at IEC, and we have an exciting webinar planned. Today we'll be diving into Illinois' clean energy landscape, exploring key policy issues and discussing potential solutions. Let's go ahead and get started. Just by way of housekeeping, everyone will be muted on the line. We'll have some time towards the end for Q&A. If you have questions throughout the presentation, highly encouraged to drop those in the chat. My colleague Francisco is keeping an eye out and will help keep track. And with that, I'll walk us through the agenda for today. So just to help set the scene, we talked about energy issues today. So imagine flipping on a switch in your home, whether it's the height of summer or the depths of winter, and you expect the lights to come on instantly. But something that folks don't often know is that the infrastructure making that possible is aging, it's under strain, and in need of a serious upgrade. So our agenda today will cover IEC's efforts and affiliate benefits before diving into that Clean Energy 101, where we'll explore the critical steps Illinois must take to ensure our energy future is bright, resilient, and equitable. And together we'll unpack the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead for our state's clean energy landscape. So with that, let's dive right in to about IEC. So the Illinois Environmental Council has been around since 1975. As a membership organization, we represent more than 130 organizations across Illinois. Our focus is on safeguarding the state, its people, plants, animals, and the natural systems on which we rely. And we have a simple guiding principle, power for the people. And today, we'll walk through the issues we work on and how we approach that work. So our focus spans 6 key issue areas: sustainable agriculture, conservation, clean energy, equitable transportation, clean water, and zero waste. What sets us apart is our approach, building coalitions across the state. Oops, sorry about that. So we work to identify key players who understand the unique challenges in these areas, learn from them, and determine how best to support their efforts through legislative action and education. Education is that key tool for us. We believe the most effective way to get buy-in from decision makers is to take them outside, let them see the issues firsthand in their communities, and help them connect with nature and the work happening on the ground. So in terms of what we do, we advance environmental laws and policies at all levels of government, whether it's Springfield, Chicago, or even in DC. We focus on building coalitions and influencing decision makers from every corner of the state. Our work is grounded in the realities and challenges people face around Illinois, and we create consensus around an annual policy agenda that reflects these needs. So a little bit about our affiliates. They play a critical role in shaping our work. These 150 or so organizations vary widely in their scope. Some operate statewide, others regionally or nationally, and they range in size and focus. I'm sure we have a good number of our affiliates or representatives of our affiliate groups on the line now. This diversity gives us a broad view of environmental issues we're addressing, and it's important to us that all voices are included to ensure we're tackling these problems from all angles. So one example of a membership benefit that we provide is the community council. And this is really exciting to me because it allows a space for smaller organizations to come together, collaborate, and come up with policy ideas and solutions in a setting that otherwise they may feel like they get drowned out. So just wanted to highlight this as one of the many opportunities to engage within the organization. Continuing on with additional benefits, one of the most important aspects of our work is how our affiliates help shape our policy agenda every year. They inform us about the challenges they face, and we work to develop solutions. So we'll soon begin webinars to engage affiliates and gather input for next year's policy agenda. And finally, we support our affiliates by pairing them with staff members focused on the issues they care most about. So in my case, I'm often paired with organizations or members that are more focused on clean energy issues. Affiliates have direct points of contact for questions and collaboration, and we rely heavily on our partners in our movement building efforts, particularly in advocacy and coalition work. Legislative advocacy is a huge part of what we do, especially during the state legislative session. And we track all environment-related bills, provide updates through emails and weekly legislative calls, and offer resources like office space in the Chicago and Springfield offices for affiliates to use for meetings and work. So for individuals who want to get involved, the best way is to become a member. It's affordable, and membership gives you early access to important information and opportunities to engage more deeply in our work. So to close the loop there and begin bridging over to the 101, this series is a new effort for us. It's designed to open up discussions across the broad range of environmental issues we cover. Many groups we work with are hyper-focused on just one issue, and this series is a great way to expand that focus and share more information across all issue areas. The goal for today's Clean Energy 101 is to understand what IUC does and its scope on clean energy policy landscape in Illinois. So today we're diving into the heart of Illinois' energy policies, and we'll start by mapping out the current energy mix, where our power comes from, and who the key players are. Then we'll move into the pressing issues we're facing, from the strain on our power grid to the need for more inclusive energy efficiency programs. And finally, we'll explore the solutions and how we can turn those challenges into opportunities for a cleaner, more sustainable future. So let's dive right in. So picture Illinois as a powerhouse. I am a fan of puns, so bear with me here. And quite literally, we're the nation's 5th largest energy producer with a unique mix of resources. Over half of our electricity comes from 6 nuclear plants, while methane gas and coal still play significant roles. But there is an exciting part, and renewables are on the rise. So wind and solar are carving out a growing share of our energy mix, signaling a shift towards cleaner power. In the last 5 years, following the passage of the Future Energy Jobs Act of 2016, FEJA, and the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act of 2021, CEJA, solar capacity has grown in Illinois significantly, over 2,500%, if you want to get into that. Wind capacity has increased 65%. And clean energy projects are delivering huge benefits to most communities and local economies. So small-scale clean energy projects, for example, rooftop solar, have been especially successful since the passage of CEJA. However, Illinois has a significant carbon footprint nationally. This makes our push towards cleaner energy even more crucial. And the energy mix isn't just numbers on a page. It's truly the backbone of everything, from the lights in our homes to the economy driving our state forward. Yet with the diverse energy portfolio comes a pressing need to modernize. Our infrastructure, much like our old highway system, needs expansion and repair to keep up with new demands and future possibilities. So just to highlight some of the benefits, should when we make that switch, investing in clean energy brings big benefits, starting with healthier communities. Cleaner air and water lead to fewer illnesses. Obviously, the COVID, COVID-19 pandemic really highlighted the importance of healthy spaces. The clean energy transition would also help build climate resilience, preparing us for extreme weather. And economically, it's a game changer. The clean energy shift creates jobs and drives economic growth in fast growing sectors like wind, solar, and energy storage. It also strengthens energy security, lowering costs by reducing reliance on fossil fuels and boosting innovation in new technologies. Plus, it can lead to higher property values as clean, efficient energy homes become more accessible and widely understood as, a benefit and a positive thing. So now let's talk about the people and organization that keep this complex machine running. IEC is a co-founder of the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition. It goes by ICJC, which is the leading clean energy advocacy group in the state. ICJC is made up of environmental advocacy organizations, businesses, community leaders, consumer advocates, environmental justice group-based organizations, student organizations, et cetera, working together to improve public health and the environment and protect consumers and create clean jobs across the state with a focus on equity. In our journey towards energy reform, the Illinois Power Agency, or IPA, ensures that we have a steady supply of energy. The Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, or DCEO, works behind the scenes, aligning our energy policies with economic growth. So they're primarily responsible for the workforce piece in all this. And then, of course, we have the utilities, and those entities responsible for delivering energy to our homes and businesses. And the Illinois Commerce Commission, or the ICC, is that oversight body responsible for ensuring that they are in line and following through on clean energy promises at the state. But the real story here is how these stakeholders interact and sometimes clash, shaping the policies that affect us all. And each stakeholder plays a pivotal role in shaping our energy policies, from regulation to implementation across various sectors. So now that we have a lay of the land, let's dive into the core issues and solutions we're implementing. We'll cover building renewable energy projects, addressing climate change, and implementing the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, or also known as CEJA. So starting with ensuring we've built and we are building enough renewable energy projects and deploying that energy, we've made strides. But imagine running a marathon and stopping just before the finish line. That's, in the sense, where Illinois stands in its renewable energy journey. With only 14% of power coming from renewables, there's a significant gap to meet the 40% renewable portfolio standard, or RPS, goal by 2030. Bridging this gap requires substantial investment in utility scale wind projects and improved grid interconnection processes. Just by way of definition, the renewable portfolio standard essentially ensures or commits the state to the amount of renewable energy that must be procured on an annual basis in order to meet our goals. So the Illinois Power Agency, just to dive a level deeper there, is responsible for procuring that energy through RECs and other means for the entire state. So initiatives that the IPA manages, like the Illinois Solar for All and Illinois Shines, solar programs are bolstered by recently a $156 million infusion from the Inflation Reduction Act's Federal Solar for All program, and just highlights how critical and current these issues are. Enhanced resource planning and transparency as well, especially for municipal electric utilities and cooperatives, will further support these efforts, ensuring Illinois meets its renewable energy targets. And again, by way of definition, the municipal electric utilities and cooperatives are essentially the electric utilities that don't fall under an investor-owned utility, such as Ameren or ComEd in the state. So additionally, looking at local siting, local ordinances in communities against renewable energy development often restrict new projects and stall statewide wind and solar generation. Local ordinances and zoning restrictions have slowed progress, but new legislation like the Wind Siting Reform Act from 2023 is starting to ease those barriers. Still, there's much more that needs to be done to ensure that renewable energy projects can be built in the right places and with community support. So continuing on this particular issue area, I teased a few minutes ago about how the aging grid infrastructure is in desperate need of modernization. So imagine our energy grid, as an old, overworked bridge. We'll go right back to a similar analogy there. It was built for the traffic of yesterday, and not the surge that we're seeing today. So as more renewable energy comes online, the grid is straining to keep up. Without upgrades, we risk not just the inconvenience, but potential failures during extreme weather events. So now consider energy efficiency as the low-hanging fruit of the energy world. It's a really ripe opportunity that we're not fully taking advantage of. So our current goals and programs are falling short, and disparities on how different utilities approach efficiency and the exclusion of large energy users mean we're missing out on savings and reliability improvements. So energy efficiency goals are outdated and fail to capture both long-term and short-term savings. Additionally, think of battery storage as the backbone of renewable energy integration. So without sufficient storage capacity, we can't fully harness the power of renewable energy sources. Illinois is far behind its storage needs, and recent studies, particularly from the Natural Resources Defense Council, or NRDC, show that we need at least 3 gigawatts of storage to meet future demands and stabilize the grid during peak use or outages. So additionally, outdated transmission lines are another key barrier. Our infrastructure is 50 to 70 years old in some areas, and without modernization, renewable energy generated in rural areas in particular can't reach customers efficiently. So experts predict a 136% increase in high voltage transmission needs by 2040 is needed, and we're just not ready for it yet. So to address some of those issues, and to meet our renewable portfolio standard goals, we need to pick up the pace. Think of it as a race. We're just getting our second wind. By streamlining grid interconnection processes and ramping up investments, we can push forward, and ensuring Illinois doesn't just participate in the clean energy revolution, but leading it. um, to make our grid future-proof, we need to think of it as a dynamic living system. Smart grid technologies and expanded transmission lines will ensure that the growing traffic of renewable energy can flow smoothly and reliably to every corner of the state, while relieving bottlenecks. So modernizing our grid will allow us to handle more renewable energy and ensure reliability during extreme weather. And high peak demand times. We need to expand high voltage transmission lines, as I mentioned, and integrate them with regional grids like MISO and PJM, and then at a state level, ComEd and Ameren, to ensure energy can flow where it's needed most. So from an energy efficiency perspective, by updating our efficiency goals, increasing investment in low-income areas, and bringing large energy users into the fold, we can turn this potential into a reality. And it's all about making sure everyone benefits from lower costs and a more reliable grid. Additionally, by developing large-scale battery storage systems, will allow us to store excess renewable energy and release it when needed. This will balance supply and demand. It's essential to store excess energy from renewable resources like wind and solar and use it when demand is high. Again, we need at least 3 gigawatts of storage capacity just to help stabilize the grid, but that's the floor. So by supporting research and development in battery technologies, we'll also drive down costs and improve efficiency long-term, which essentially makes storage solutions more accessible and effective. So moving on to the second issue here, addressing climate change through emissions. Let's first talk about the building sector. Considering where we spend the most time, it's usually our homes, our offices, schools, and unfortunately, many of these buildings are like old furnaces, burning fossil fuels and spewing out greenhouse gases. And buildings account for about 2/3 of greenhouse gas emissions in northeastern Illinois. They're contributing significantly to the climate crisis, and we need to rethink how to power them. For carbon capture and sequestration, or CCS, while CCS technology can capture carbon emissions from power plants and industrial sources, preventing them from entering the atmosphere, we need strong regulation to ensure that it doesn't become an excuse to extend the life of fossil fuels and fossil fuel plants, creating new environmental risks. It also has risks such as increased pollution and delayed renewable energy adoption. Then for hydrogen, the expansion of hydrogen as an energy source in Illinois faces challenges due to the potential inclusion of hydrogen derived from non-renewable sources such as fossil fuels. So prioritizing hydrogen production exclusively from renewable energy sources like wind and solar is essential to ensure that the state's clean energy goals are met and the environmental benefits of hydrogen are fully realized. And naturally, there is also a necessity to ensure that local communities are bought into any location desired for a project. So moving into solutions for this section, the buildings we live and work in should be part of the solution, not the problem. So by setting aggressive emission reduction targets and modernizing our building sector, we can phase out the old polluting technologies and embrace a cleaner, more efficient future. Implementing clean heating standards and promoting energy efficient appliances will play a significant role in lowering overall emissions. So truly switching over from fossil fuel derived appliances within our homes to electric to also coincide with the switch on the grid that's happening on the grid in the power sector from fossil fuel sources to cleaner and renewable energy sources. For CCS in Illinois, we must enforce stringent regulations to protect air and water quality. Um, Additionally, CCS should be used in conjunction with renewables to reduce reliance on fossil fuels and overall emissions and lower overall emissions. This balanced approach ensures that CCS contributes to our environmental goals while supporting the transition to a cleaner energy future. Illinois just passed its first comprehensive CCS protections bill earlier this year in 2024. And there's still some more work to be done to ensure further safety for local communities and our waterways. Additionally, around hydrogen, just to ensure that hydrogen development aligns with Illinois' clean energy objectives, it's crucial to focus on renewable sourced hydrogen and involve local communities in decision-making processes. Implementing community benefits agreements or CBAs can provide a framework for ensuring that hydrogen projects are developed transparently and equitably, delivering direct benefits to the communities that are involved while maintaining a strong commitment to sustainability and environmental stewardship. And I should also mention that both issues around CCS and hydrogen had come up and became larger issues within the states after incentives came out at the federal level. So there was a little bit of a domino effect there with hydrogen and the 45V credit at the federal level, and then with oh, excuse me, that's around CCS. And then for hydrogen, the Mach H2 project through a federal prize program. So just to highlight how those have come up within the recent year or two. Moving on to the third issue here. CEJA, as I've mentioned, or the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, is a nation-leading clean energy policy that put Illinois at the forefront of the clean energy transition. It aims to achieve 100% clean energy by 2045, while promoting energy efficiency, consumer benefits, and utility accountability to ensure a just and sustainable clean energy transition for all. The Act also includes job training programs and just transition policies to support workers and communities impacted by the shift from fossil fuels, ensuring that the clean energy future creates opportunities for everyone across the state. So going in a little deeper around clean energy workforce development, Illinois is in many ways at the forefront of a clean energy revolution. But we need a well-trained workforce to make it happen. CEJA aims to create around 100,000 clean energy jobs by 2045, and we need to expand training programs and support job creation, particularly for disadvantaged communities. So right now, the training programs and support systems through the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, or DCEO, at the state level, aren't fully developed, which leaves a gap in our ability to seize this opportunity. But they're working on it. Next issue is around federal funding utilization and implementation. So the federal government has handed us the tools with historic investments from the Inflation Reduction Act, and even dating back a couple of years around the bipartisan infrastructure law and Justice 40. But it's up to us to tap into those resources and use them accordingly. So if we don't effectively channel this funding at the state level, and even local level within Illinois, for clean energy projects and workforce development, we risk missing out on a once in a lifetime chance to transform our energy landscape. So we must effectively use federal funding from the IRA to advance clean energy projects and workforce development. The state was recently awarded $430 million to really be able to work on its clean energy transition. And we're very, very excited to hear and learn more about what implementation looks like over the next 5 years with that funding. So considering that CEJA is our roadmap to a carbon-free future, by leveraging federal funds and expanding workforce training programs, and also by investing in community-driven clean energy projects, we can ensure that every Illinoisan benefits from the clean energy transition. This includes enhancing solar programs to increase access for underserved communities and directing funds towards projects that address local climate pollution. And it also just ensures that also helps close the loop on all the efforts that we've talked about throughout the presentation. There are so many opportunities to continue implementing this close to 1,000-page law, and ensure that Illinois is set up to implement that as equitably as intended. Other states have continued to follow suit through their own similar clean energy laws. But I am so proud to be an Illinoisan and recognize how CEJA focuses so heavily on equity, and ensuring that folks in the workforce are not left behind. I think that's a really clear standout of this particular law compared to some other states. So we were able to wrap up a little quickly, but there will be plenty of time for Q&A. So to close, Illinois faces significant challenges in building renewable energy projects, addressing climate change, and implementing CEJA. However, by updating goals and investing in infrastructure and effectively using federal funding, we can make substantial progress. So ahead of Q&A, if this presentation motivated you at all to get involved, the best way is to become an IAC member. Membership gives you early access to important information and opportunities to engage more deeply in our work. So with that, we are almost at the end of our 101 series. The next one is in October, covering workforce in a climate-centered economy. So there's a little bit of a teaser throughout this presentation around clean energy workforce transitions and what's happening with DCEO at the state level. If you want to get a deep dive or take a deep dive into that, please join us at the next one in October. My colleague Francisco, who's on the line now, will be leading that one with a couple of other colleagues. So very much looking forward to that. And please plan to visit illenviro.org/101 for registration information, and also subscribe to our newsletters to get a heads up when the registration opens up. I don't think we have a link for this one just yet. So with that, thank you so much for attending today's webinar, and I'll open up the floor for any questions you may have. So folks are welcome to feel free to raise your hands or throw any questions in the chat. And we'll keep the line open for a couple minutes here just to see if folks have questions. Mark?
Yeah, hi. I got on a little bit late, but I was wondering if you mentioned the push to renuclearize things and where the IEC stands on that. I'm very skeptical, quite frankly, but that's me. I don't think I'm alone, but any comments?
Yeah, when it comes to nuclear, frankly, in terms of the transition, the clean energy transition, it's a significant part of the current existing mix, energy mix on the grid. In terms of moving away from fossil fuels, it's really important just knowing that our renewable development and capacity isn't quite there yet to completely take over. But we also recognize that nuclear power plants take 30 plus years to develop, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make economic sense. It doesn't make sense in terms of the waste after the fact to invest in brand new plants that would take decades to stand up when that funding can be put towards renewable energy projects.
Yeah. Plus the decommissioning costs, which have never been figured in.
Yeah.
I know that there's movement to reopen the plant on the Michigan side of Lake Michigan. I don't think that's a good idea, but I think there's a part of it that I suspect there's going to be such a demand to power AI stuff that might be part of it. But anyway, I'm learning stuff, and I'm thanking all of you at IEC for what you're doing. And anyway, thanks for this. This is good. And putting people to work is a huge thing, and there's real opportunities, and we can get there.
Great. Thank you, Mark. I'm seeing a question in the chat here from Mac. Currently getting solar panels on your roof. How is Illinois doing in this statewide? A specific figure is what you're looking for. And Mac, feel free to come off mute if you want to expand upon that. In terms of how Illinois is doing, both rooftop solar and community solar are doing exceptionally well in the state. I can circle back with you for an exact figure from the IPA that's updated. But looking at renewable energy as a whole, like those are two areas that are performing exceptionally well. Where we need a lot of help in closing the development gap is at a utility scale, both solar and wind. Also see a question from Sue in the chat. What are the barriers to improving the grid? Yeah, as we kind of discussed in this presentation and continuing kind of bouncing off of the issues presented earlier on the grid problems, additional barriers include funding opportunities and ensuring that like the investor-owned utilities that own transmission infrastructure are prioritizing investments in more transmission infrastructure. There's also a need for expanding. So we need to replace old and outdated transmission infrastructure, also expand it to every corner of the state to ensure that every resident who wants and needs access to power has it. Um, and in terms of additional improvements, we're really just needing, we're struggling or running into issues with prioritization, I think, with that and funding. Okay. So
I just, I didn't, I know you probably thought, we probably just thought when I asked that you just explained the whole thing. I guess what I'm thinking of is there legislation that we need to pass? Are there places to petition? It seems from what I've read that a lot of times the power companies are just kind of dragging their feet. And how can that be addressed other than what we're already doing or what you guys are already doing?
well, okay. In terms of what we're doing, or what with IUC and the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition are up to on the issue, um, we're working on policy, and I'm wearing a couple different hats because we have both the C3 and C4, so bear with me in my hesitancy. But just to put my C4 hat on, um, we are working on a bill for the next legislative session. It was introduced this past session. It's called the Clean and Reliable Grid Act. Um, and it seeks to address all of these issues with a primary focus around energy efficiency. Um, and that is one of those grid issues and barriers that is stalling additional renewable energy projects from coming online.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, does that help, Spencer?
It does. It does. I've
Okay.
read a lot about it and I found the whole thing very informative, but thank you. But yeah, it seems like, I mean, essentially what can I do? But it seems like just stand by and watch and support what you guys are doing, and that's the best I can do.
I gotcha. Yeah, from the best way to get involved with the power sector issues in particular, it's a tough one because there isn't really a more grassroots level um, campaign around our grid right now. The more campaign focused spaces are around clean and healthy buildings and transportation. So when it comes to the power sector, though, if you're looking to get more involved, especially if you're a homeowner with solar or a developer working in that space, always interested in talking more at that level and at a policy level. But just in terms of staying engaged as an interested person, IUC membership and we'll keep you posted on where our progress is at and as action alerts and opportunities to get more deeply involved in some of that policy work. We'll flag all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Sue, I also wanted to flag a great educational resource actually came out today from our friends at Prairie Rivers Network and Citizens Utility Board. So one of the barriers to our grid work is that rural electric cooperatives and municipal utilities just overall have less transparency and oversight, despite the fact that they should be and are designed to be people-powered utilities. And PRN and CUB came out today with a scorecard that analyzed a bunch of different information about rural electric cooperatives specifically. So I will put that scorecard in the chat if you're interested in learning more about that specifically.
Okay, thank you. That would be great.
I think one of our next questions in the chat is from Ellen. Can you please expand on the hydrogen power in Illinois, specifically its current capabilities and availability? Oh, you're muted, Simmer, by the way.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that's a really great question, Ellen. And for hydrogen in particular, the governor threw us a loop a couple of years ago when he made an announcement that he wanted to make Illinois the hydrogen hub of the country. So it kind of put us on a path of, okay, we need to figure out what that means. Because hydrogen historically hasn't really been in the state. But more recently with the federal prize program and development that is the Mach H2 development, which crosses between Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan, I believe. It, there are different hydrogen can be sourced from different types of energy sources. In our case, because of CEJA, the portion of that one project that overlaps in Illinois is expected to be sourced from renewable energy sources. But interestingly enough, the portions of the project that are outside state lines, so like the section that's in Indiana, will be sourced from fossil fuels, or at least in part from fossil fuels. So with hydrogen, it can be, again, sourced from different types of energy, and then the output can vary as well, and the carbon emissions out of that. There's, I refer to it as the hydrogen rainbow. I'm not sure if that's a technical term, but there are a whole host of images, visuals online, essentially outlining the different colors of hydrogen that define the energy source and the carbon output for the various types. And there are a slew of them.
And then I think the next question is there a plan in place to require new buildings to incorporate solar in their structures?
Yeah, that's a really great question. There's no requirement, and I'm not anticipating a requirement for buildings to have solar by default. However, there is the Clean and Healthy Buildings Act was introduced this past session and will continue to be negotiated and have a life moving forward, which essentially ensures that new construction, new builds would be EV, or excuse me, would be all electric. So in a sense, as part of those builds, they would be PV or solar ready, and or could by default have solar installed as part of the new build. I don't believe that they would be required right off the bat in that act in particular. Just looking for more questions here. Okay, another one on buildings. Yep, so the Clean and Healthy Buildings Act. Mac, I'm going to connect you. I'm going to drop a contact for my colleague who works on zero waste issues, and she can help address that that question around whether we're capturing methane from our landfills. There we go. Okay, and
then-
we were able to get a number this should be updated around what percentage of homes in the state have rooftop solar. I believe the Illinois Power Agency, or the IPA, is reporting around 2%. 2% of homes.
I think that in part also answers like the follow-up question revolving solar and new buildings. There was this question on, was the plan to incorporate clean energy in homes? I don't know if you have a little bit more information on that, or if the prior like legislation that we're advocating for addresses that.
Trying to find that question because it's a little loaded. For the Clean and Healthy Buildings Act, it would require all homes be electric. All new builds have electric appliances and be electric ready. There's also an ordinance at the city of Chicago level that essentially seeks to do the same. The clear distinction between the two is the state level bill would establish a few different things, including standards that at the city level it wouldn't necessarily make sense to have. But that's a different question than whether buildings would be required to source renewables. And the reason for that is a homeowner, or I suppose a renter, a super zealous renter could potentially have could source their energy from community solar, or rooftop solar, or another renewable energy source that's direct to their meter, if they're on the meter. But if someone is subscribed to another company through, let's say, ComEd or Ameren, or whoever their electric utility may be, they're most likely paying for RECs, or renewable energy credits, because there really is no way to there's no way to personalize the energy mix coming down through the grid into your home otherwise, which is why RECs exist, because it's just kind of a good faith financial measure to put your money towards those efforts, but it doesn't necessarily mean that what you're receiving is going to be 100% renewable energy. It might be at any given time, probably not 100% at this stage, but there are other programs like time of use. If the customer is signed up for a time of use rate, or hourly rates, to determine when the grid may be cleanest, and run their appliances or use electricity the most during those times.
And then there's another question on solar farms. Can you give any details on our Illinois law related to trying to bar solar farms? This person, Henry Henderson, says, in my rural county, there's always pushback on proposed solar installs on agricultural land.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So this also came up sometime during the presentation, but last year in 2023, the state passed a wind siting reform act, which in short really ensures that a county cannot outright ban renewable energy developments or projects within their jurisdictions. And that was a response to seeing a lot of anti-solar rulemaking happening across the state. It's been successful so far in the sense that it allows developers or provides developers with a little bit more autonomy to file a lawsuit or follow up with litigation, should their project not go through a due process. It doesn't mean that county municipality has to approve that project. But what we're seeing is a lot of anti-renewable attitudes that are driving policy making and decision making at those more local levels. So that particular act that passed is supposed to help mitigate some of that, but it's surely not a case closed situation. Okay, and I do see that we're coming up on time here. Please feel free to reach out to me. My email is on the screen here. I've also included the email for our Chief of Staff, Chelsea Biggs, who can help answer and any questions that folks may have around membership and becoming an affiliate. So I think with that, we may close out. But if there are any questions that we didn't get to, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer them. I just want to be cognizant of time here. Awesome, and Hannah dropped the link in the chat to stay engaged. So just want to thank you all so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.